Viewers, welcome back to the second part of the May 2021 edition of Anew series. So the previous part we covered a lot about the international news, and then we also covered the major mining reforms that we have our government has presented recently. In this current part, we are going to talk more about the national news, the events of significance. So one of the things, as explained in the previous part, the one area which has been happening really where the COVID has been used as an opportunity has been the infrastructure spending. So the highway department has been really doing their work at a very breathtaking pace in spite of challenges revolving around finding the migrant laborers. So the government is spending close to 7 lakh crores to building green express highways, of which around 1 lakh crores is being spent on Delhi-Mumbai Expressway, which is expected to be completed in a year. And this is on a completely new alignment, not the one that we have already. And this is expected to reduce the travel time from 40 hours to straight 12 hours. So that's almost close to more than one-third savings on the travel time. In this, there's also going to be a separate electric lane which will be constructed in this as a separate. What does this electric lane mean? So it's going to have, ability for, it will allow trucks to start taking electricity from overhead wires, just like you have the trains, that you will have a possibility for people, the trucks to, take power from overhead wires. Now, why is this significant? Because apart from reducing the travel time, this will also lead to considerable saving in fuel cost for the truckers. Though the architecture of the truck will definitely go through a change, because instead of fuel, then now they will have to use the electric motors, but it will significantly reduce the cost of transportation. Now, we all know Delhi is a landlocked city, and there's a lot of industrial areas surrounding because of the entrepreneurial spirit of the people from Delhi and Punjab. There's a lot of industries which are in hinterland. And the nearest port of transit for them is either Kandla in Gujarat or JNPT in Mumbai. And JNPT being a far more efficient port and larger port, a lot of this traffic happens between Mumbai and Delhi. So having a dedicated electric lane which will allow the truckers to reduce the cost of transportation can play a significant amount of impact in improving the competitiveness of these industries which are landlocked. So the next development is also the government of India has launched a lot of production linked incentives over a period of the last 1 year. Ever since we had a challenge with Chinese on the Galwan Valley, we also realized that it's high time that we reduce our dependence on the Chinese for imports, number one. And also the fact that a lot of the world, a lot of the countries in the world are beginning to diversify their, the single source of imports from China, because that's a very dangerous thing. Many countries are beginning to feel, or actually felt challenged during the COVID crisis, was that China was a single source of supply, and that doesn't bide well for any country. So if they're looking at diversification, India could be a very natural choice, because we are far more closer to the European country than the Chinese. Number one, we have a flourishing democracy, and then we are exactly halfway between Dubai and Singapore. And most importantly, we have ourselves a very large domestic population, and we are an English-speaking country. So India is very rightly geographically, and is blessed with the years of British domination with respect to English-speaking skills and also the democratic setup. Therefore, this is a right time for us to utilize this beautiful opportunity that the history provides itself upon us. So the reason production-linked incentives, apart from what was rolled out before, was for the food processing sector. We all know India has become suddenly, after the Green Revolution, from being a deficit food producer, we have become a surplus food producer, to the extent that we have surplus stocks for close to 2 to 3 years right now. We know this thing, and each year we are coming up with record production of food. So the outlay for the production-linked incentive for food processing sector is going to be around 10,900 crores, and this is expected to create jobs for around 2.5 lakhs people, and this will also help boost exports. So anything related to agri and agri products are huge employment generator, and this will significantly boost the production of value-added food products. We are also seeing as a country that though our food items remain the same, the way we consume the food has changed from doing it everything ourselves. Now we are slowly moving to a process where we have almost come to ready-to-eat food. So earlier the grinding was no more done at home, and then we went to branded packets, and then we have almost come to semi-cooked foods. Then we are very close to having fully cooked food. So our our cooking patterns have gone through a change. Therefore, having a good industry which is in food processing in area will substantially reduce the time taken for people to cook food, and also will present itself as an opportunity for a huge export markets. This will definitely help bring very remunerative prices to the farmers, because as the value chain goes up, then the cost of sourcing will also increase. And if you actually notice, this is a follow-up on the farm reforms. A couple of years back, the Prime Minister had mentioned that he is very seriously looking to increase the the income for farm, 5 times increase the farm farm incomes, or double the farm incomes from where it is. And one of the ways to do that is to increase value addition into the food sector. And there's another very parallel change, having mentioned the the farm laws. It's very interesting to note that something very different has happened this period of time. Haryana, followed by Punjab, has started making direct fund transfer to the farmer's bank account, and thereby ending this era of having to pay the commissions for all these RHTS and procurement centers. So this is a very efficient way of transfer of money to the farmer, because all these days what was happening, the farmer was at the whims and fancies of all the procurement centers or the mandis or the RHTS or anyone who was associated with centralizing the procurement and selling it to the traders. Now this direct farm procurement will definitely ensure that all the middlemen are taken out, corruption is brought down, and the farmer who has toiled on the field has for the first time an ability to see money in his bank, which means the chances of stealing it are much lesser, and in case something happens to the farmer, then his legal heirs and nominees will be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. So that's a very powerful thing that has happened. The next thing in the farm, in the production linked incentive, is the government has also extended this towards manufacturing of air conditioners, LEDs and solar photovoltaic modules. Now it's a known fact that India being a tropical country, the usage of air conditioner has increased substantially, and it has penetrated even the rural areas. And as the houses are more into cement and concrete, then the natural ventilation possibilities have substantially reduced, and therefore the need of an air conditioner increases in any one of these modern houses. And also we have a long coastline, which means we are a very humid place, and therefore air conditioner also is very essential to both our hinterland and the coastline. And most of these air conditioners are no more seen as a luxury. They are seen as something which are very important for our day-to-day living, like a refrigerator and TV. And most of these air conditioners were actually being bought down as a semi-knockdown condition from the Chinese factories owned by Japanese and Korean. So this incentive will ensure that production gets shifted over here, because that's not a very high technology item. So it's just that we need to build competence on cost of sourcing and the precision to do that. And then LEDs, after the new this current government came into board, one of the major initiatives that they did was to ensure that the power sector also was able to reduce the consumption by bringing in LEDs, and this actually revolutionized the cost of LEDs. And because India went big through the Ujjwala scheme, that the cost of LEDs world over came down. But most of these were imported again. So this production linked incentive will help to develop a sustainable LED infrastructure and industry in India. Then finally it is photovoltaic cells. Now the solar energy generated by India has grown substantially, and that's the way the government wants to see it grow. Like the percentage of electricity generated from fossil fuels like coal or petrol, they want to reduce it considerably. And India being a country which gets year-round sunshine, for solar energy production is a very viable option. But once again, these were important. We did have a few local manufacturing units, but not to the scale and size that the Chinese had. So the idea of the government is to incentivize and create a sustainable domestic and export market by shifting the production from China to India, and these production incentives are expected to add speeden up the whole process. The third area where these production linked incentives have been bought is advanced chemistry cells. Now what is advanced chemistry cells? Basically it's an opportunity for all battery manufacturers. So the government is also as a part of FAME faster, it is to the idea was to create an environment or an incentive mechanism through through which people really took up use of electric vehicles for their daily commute and transportation. And the government had announced incentives. Many state governments have reduced the registration charge for vehicles, and they have also brought down the life tax, or either waived or brought down the life tax rates. And therefore there's an all-round effort to increase the use of electric vehicles. Now, increasing the use of electric vehicles for domestic or transportation, individual transportation, will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, because India's largest export basket still remains to be crude oil. But most of these electric vehicle cells were all being imported from China again. So with this incentive, the government intends to create a large domestic manufacturing base of electric cells and batteries required for storage of electricity, because the challenge with both wind energy and solar energy is that they cannot be direct. They can be fed into the grid, but their production is highly volatile, and therefore grid stability will suffer. So one of the ways is to store this electricity, and therefore we would need batteries to store. We will also need batteries to be used in electric vehicles and all those things. And so this production linked incentive for advanced cell chemistry will ensure that a lot of research goes into that, a lot of production capabilities that gets created, and there is a possibility to create a huge grid storage facility for power generation from windmill and electric solar. Viewers, stay tuned. We are going to come with the next part of the May Anew series. Thank you so much for watching this part. We'll come up with more national news and innovation and positive things that are going all around us, even during this pandemic times. Thank you so much for logging in.